You've all come to see me, haven't you? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. We're live streaming tonight, so if you've walked through the door, you've agreed to give your intellectual rights to us for the evening. But are we all good, Tom? Yep. Welcome, everybody, to A Strings at the Barn. We've been here for almost 3 months now. I think most of you came to our kind of opening party, but it's been a bit of a baptism of fire for us. We're all more tired than we ever thought we ever could be, but it's all good, and we've had a really good few months, so thank you very much if you support us this far down the line. So just a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. We've got some seats here, which is great. If you need a seat, please let us know. I think you would have got one by now, but if you need a seat, let us know, and maybe somebody who doesn't need a seat can be good enough. Whose telephone's that? Whose mobile's got? My rig, for goodness sake, mate. Fire exits are there and out through there, so run as fast as you can, push people out the way. If anything goes wrong, we'll think of yourself. Right. Right. Thank you to begin with to Yamaha for arranging tonight. This is the second time that we've had this artist here with us for an evening, and I wish that we had the dynamic pricing kind of thing that Ticketmaster's got going on their website, because when we announced this event back, when was it? Was it late? No, it was early October, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it was around about early October. The tickets went within 10 minutes, and I wish that we had somewhere that was 10 times bigger, because I'm sure we would have filled it out just as quickly. So you managed to get a ticket. Well done, you. Unless you've sneaked in, and we'll find you. So you know who you've come to see, but this chap has been coming into us he was coming into us when we were in the Broadway, and I remember him coming in 2014, 2015. He's been a really good supporter of ours over the years, and it's been an absolute delight to see how he's absolutely grown into the force that he is, dominating the guitar world online and around the world. Just come back from America, just finished a UK tour, going elsewhere next week. The guy is everywhere, and he absolutely deserves every success that he gets. So, first of all, he's Welsh, which is brilliant. He's a winner of Music Radar's Best New Guitarist 2017. He's Guitarist Magazine's Best Pop Guitarist of 2021. He's Welsh. He's a member of Cardinal Black. He's Welsh, and he's a Rev Star player. We're absolutely thrilled to have with us for the second time tonight, Chris Buck, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, hello. I'm indeed Welsh. Although I do live in Bristol, so technically speaking, I've emigrated. All right, me lovers. All right, me lover.
I'm wondering why I can't find a reason why you're searching for this feeling that you used to have. Are you looking through every mistake that I've made just to be the object of your blame? To make you feel whole again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been holding my breath, falling from grace, taking my time. I don't know where I'm on my own without you. Am I running away from this place that I need? The help I need to be free.
Sorry, I was in tune when I bought it. How are you all doing? It's lovely to be here at PMT. Joking aside, honestly, it's incredible, you know, at a time when music shops are literally dying around us. To see A-Strings going from strength to strength is just not only miraculous, but testament to the kind of dedication and work that they put into it. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for this. At this rate, you'll be taking over the old macro thing around the corner. How are we doing? We good? Yeah. Awesome. As you can imagine, this is my favourite thing to do in the world, because there's nothing quite like a room full of guitar players, all with their arms crossed. Going, right, play something that impresses me, please. So the way that I get around that is to not only take the piss out of myself a little bit, but also just open the floor to questions. I know some people kind of like keeping the questions to the end, etc., etc. I find the whole experience infinitely less terrifying and intimidating if you just shout questions at me throughout. I have a wife who loves to shout at me, so I'm very used to being shouted at spontaneously. So I'm used to it. I won't take offense. If you want to ask any questions at any point, don't worry about sticking your hand up. Just shout at me. I'll answer them, or I'll do my level-headed best to anyway. So first and foremost, this is the point at which everyone will corral me in the toilets after we finish to ask their question, and all go very, very question shy in the moment. Anyone got a question? Let's get the... Yay, there we go. Thank God.
Right. In London, you played the Beast.
I did play the Beast in London, yes. As a guitar for anyone. Not, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certain Les Paul.
Yeah.
How much notice did you actually get from Bernie's family?
Yeah. So for the benefit of the live stream, I guess as much as anything else, a couple of weeks back in London, we played at Coco, beautiful venue in Camden, and I was lucky enough to play Bernie Marsden's 59 Les Paul, the Beast. I knew Bernie pretty well. Bernie was a lovely, lovely guy, and just exactly what you saw was what you got with Bernie. He was like everyone's favourite affable uncle. He was just a lovely, lovely guy, and I was lucky enough. I think I spent a good few hours cumulatively with the Beast, his 59 burst, which I think was probably for the best in hindsight, because I think I probably would have been absolutely bloody terrified of touching it for the first time if it was just handed to me on stage. But his daughter Olivia texted me a good couple of months before the gig saying, "Oh, see you playing in London. Do you want to play the Beast?" So I was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." Totally forgetting, and the reality of that on the day itself is that can't really leave your guitar rack. So everyone else, once we sound check, we're like, "Do you want to go for a pint?" I'm like, "No, I'm just going to stand here and nervously watch this guitar, because it's worth more than my house and everyone else in my street's house combined, I imagine." So it was awesome. It's like, aside from anything else, aside from like the scarcity and the value and the rarity and all of the inherent kind of cool factor around a 59 burst, it's just a great guitar. I mean, it makes sense, you know, the Bernie played it as long as he did, and you know that these guitars see as much use as they do when they're such great instruments, you know. I kept a list on my phone at one point because I was intrigued. I think I've played about 17 or 18 bursts maybe, and that's one of the heaviest by quite a long way. It's a heavy guitar, hence the Beast, and also one of the best ones I've ever played, just one of the best guitars I've ever played, full stop. So yeah, it's a very cool, that pedal show.
Yeah, I tried to get Dan and Mick to come down.
Oh, don't worry about that. They bought the guitars and they point, I imagine, Dan and Mick. But yeah, it was a very cool experience, and just very. It's nice guitars like that, I guess, especially, you know, with Bernie having passed relatively recently. I guess it would be very easy for the family to either sell that guitar or for it to just live safely in the house or whatever. So it's nice that it still has this legacy beyond Bernie and still gets out and about, you know, with reprobates like myself getting to play it. So.
I saw the clip of you actually holding on to it, and I was, "Wow, you lucky bug."
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I did was put strap locks on it, and someone like the thing is, in those moments, like you're in a gig, you're trying to kind of remain focused on the fact that you're in a gig with like 1,000+ people there, and trying to kind of like entertain the crowd as much as anything else, and not be burdened by the knowledge of the guitar that you're holding. A collector who owns a couple of bursts, gave me one to play in Bristol a couple of years ago, and I just totally forgot that I had it on, and before you know it, you're jumping off the drum riser. This, you know, kind of, I think I was led on my back at one point on stage with with this guitar strap on my neck that's probably worth about £250,000. So in those moments, it's nice that you're not kind of, baby in it, because that's when accidents happen. It's when you're nervous of holding something that things go wrong, generally speaking. So if you just kind of forget what you're playing, you're probably going to be all right. But yeah, it was a very cool experience. So cheers to the Marsdens for letting me play a very small part in that incredible guitar's legacy. So cool. Question.
Do you read music or are you self-taught?
Do I read music or am I self-taught? Sorry, I'm repeating things for the live stream. I don't read music. I had a couple of brief guitar lessons when I was in school. Essentially, I realised that the guitar lessons that the school were offering were coinciding with maths lessons. So I thought if I start doing guitar lessons, at the very least, it gets me 25 minutes out of math lessons. So, and then I kind of took to it. I guess, thinking back, it was kind of inevitable I was going to end up being musically interested or curious to some degree, whether that would manifest in me playing an instrument or just loving music. Like my old man was a huge music fan, just the soundtrack of my youth, constantly music and bands on in the house, So, and always one or two guitars dotted around the house as well. But I had a couple of lessons where, shout out actually, my first ever guitar teacher, Greg Hunt, lives pretty close to here. And Greg was awesome in the sense that I think, contrary to a lot of school guitar teachers who are very strictly following a syllabus and a curriculum where they have to teach you this, and the first thing you do is, and you're 12 and you want to play Nirvana, he was like, what you need is power chords. Let me show you a power chord. If you know a power chord, you can play Smells Like Teen Spirit, you can play The Offspring, you can play Blink-182, you can play Newfound Glory, all of this punk rock stuff that I was loving at the time. He just showed me enough to get me started. And even if he didn't necessarily instill me with a great deal of theoretical knowledge, he just stoked this fire in me for this enthusiasm of hearing stuff on a record and then being able to replicate that to varying degrees of success, I imagine, at least initially. But that's invaluable, and that was so much more important to me at that moment in time than someone going, right, you need to know your major and your minor and your modes and all this kind of stuff. It just would have bored me, I imagine. I would have preferred maths. So, yeah, not really officially taught. Everything I know, I've just kind of glean from other people or listening to records and trying to kind of piece things together myself. And consequently, it's occurred to me on various occasions that there are just these vast gaps in my knowledge where there's big gaps that need to be bridged. I have this bit of knowledge and I have this bit of knowledge, and I found a way to kind of go the long way around and join the two together, when in actual fact there's just a motorway going between them that I've never been told about. So the way that I understand guitar, I think, is quite strange or unusual or a bit idiosyncratic. It's why so much of the stuff that I do, solo-wise, is on one or two strings. All of this kind of approach where you run up and down like that. That's kind of how the guitar makes sense to me. I get asked all the time, how do you break out of the box? I'm stuck in a pentatonic box. How do I get out of that box? I'm like, I was never really in the box in order to try and figure out how to get out of the box, because I've always thought of the guitar as kind of running that way, because it's just a strange instrument. If you look at any of these instruments around you, pianos especially, they run low to high. That's kind of how they work, and it makes perfect sense as a consequence. If you think of how singers visualize notes, it's almost kind of linearly. It's not modes or boxes or shapes or squares or any other shape. It's just low to high. So why would you not think about the guitar like that? So much of the solo when I do all of that kind of bendy slidey stuff, kind of whatever you want to call it, all this sort of so much you can say just on one string on a guitar. Everyone gets very caught up in the modes and the boxes and all that kind of stuff, which is great to know, I've no doubt. I don't know it. I get a lot of comments when, in response to particular solos, where people go, oh, that's Mixolydian, or that's Aeolian, or that's Lydian, or Phrygian, or whatever. And I'm like, cool. if you say so, that's great. That's good to know at the very least. That's not how I kind of visualize the guitar. I've no doubt I do play in a modal way every now and then, but I'm just thinking everything is major or minor, really. Major or minor, as far as I'm concerned. So, I think as a consequence of not really having had lessons, the way I figured out the guitar is a bit strange, and it's not necessarily something I would be keen to advocate in others to go, yeah, just do what I did. Just make it up. Just listen to Slash. You know, like I remember there was this massive moment for me where, like, I knew my minor pentatonic, and I was cool moving my minor pentatonic shape up and down the neck and around, getting around like that. But whenever there would be a moment in a solo where it would go like major, or you would have to solo in a major key, I'd just pretend my guitar was unplugged or not working. And I knew a major scale. I knew it was this. Now, if you've ever tried a solo in that, it's just awkward. It's just not a very nice shape to play. For the life of me, I could not understand why. I was watching Guns N' Roses live at Tokyo Dome in 1992, and it gets to the end section of Rocket Queen, and I'm watching Slash do this like beautiful melodic solo in a major key, and I'm like, how is he doing that? So I'm like watching his fingers, like slowing it down, watching it frame by frame, and I think it's in the key of F sharp minor, and I'm watching what he's doing, and I'm thinking like, he's not playing any different shapes there to like your minor pentatonic. How the hell is he doing that? And slowly kind of started to kind of work out that like, oh, well, it's just the same shape. It's just moved down. So instead of being there and it being kind of minor shape, he's literally moved it a couple of frets down and he's playing exactly the same shape. And that was like this light bulb moment of like, I now know major and minor. I'm ready to conquer the world. And that's about where my learning stopped, really. So, no, that's a very long answer to a very short question. I'm good at that. No real formal training, so much as just someone kind of like pushing me in the right direction and going, cool, figure it out on your own. And consequently, chasms of missing knowledge in there, but I'm filling them in slowly. I did a guitar masterclass, kind of like an 11-hour behemoth of a course that I released recently, and partnered with like an actual guitar teacher on that, which was such an interesting experience because he approached me about doing this course and he said, I think I'd be the right guy to work with you on this. I've literally written the book on you. He'd transcribed a DVD I did with Lick Library about 10 years ago and turned it into a book, hopefully more coherent than the DVD was. And he was like, I think as a consequence now I kind of understand your playing. I understand where you're coming from and what you do and how you approach the guitar. And he was giving me like little scale shapes and kind of like little explanations for me to say to camera. And it was only while I was repeating them to camera, I was like, oh, that's what I'm doing. That now makes sense. And then we'd stop filming and going, I get it now. I'm like joining the dots up. And he's like, you're an idiot. So that was such an interesting experience because that did genuinely join a couple of dots together. And I suddenly started to understand what I'm doing a little bit better. But it's not that I'm afraid of learning more theory. It's not that I know some people kind of hide behind the idea of, well, if I learn more theory, it'll take away any instinctive degree of my playing. It's not that at all. I'm just lazy. I have a 5-year-old who is mental and takes up 99% of my time. And if I'm not chasing him around a garden, I'm on tour. So finding the time to join all of these little kind of missing bits of knowledge in my playing is very different to actually wanting to do it. So yeah, just watch Slash, I guess, is my advice there. So cool. Any more questions?
Yeah, I'd come back to Holding My Breath. Phenomenal gig.
Oh, cheers, thank you.
In terms of you're doing something really sort of unique with the right hand there. In terms of getting the groove.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about playing up the neck.
Yeah.
And how are you sort of developing if you've got to play like a 48-bar guitar solo? How are you developing that, and how don't you reach your dynamic ceiling too early?
Yeah, good question. For the benefit of the live stream, he said, you're the best guitar player I've ever seen. Yeah.
It's a phenomenal song.
Thank you.
You'd stop, hang on the groove again, and you went again.
Yeah. So genuinely for the benefit of the live stream, but solo structuring, I guess, or constructing or building a solo. That's an interesting one, and it's so dependent on like the context of what you're playing with, and having a band that is kind of aware of what you're doing and willing to follow you. Like, so much is like eye contact. The cool thing about Cardinal Black is myself, Tom and Adam in particular, have been in bands since about 2009, maybe. We've been doing this a very long time. We were an originals band back in 2009, 2010. We then split up, tried to do the big kind of acrimonious split of like, you never want to see you again, but we were simultaneously in a wedding band, so it was like, fuck you, see you Saturday. So we tried to do Guns N' Roses, but it was not quite as acrimonious. But the cool thing about having done that, we did the covers band thing for like 10 years then. You know, we played weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals. We celebrate any religion for the right price, as the joke goes. The cool thing about having done that is you develop this like just innate musical understanding and connection where you don't have to second guess one another because you kind of know what's coming. So even in those moments of the set where it's a little bit more loosely structured and you've got this space to kind of like stretch your legs, there's still some like weird telekinesis kind of like understanding going on where you kind of know where each other's going. So it gives you a little bit of a framework to work with in terms of structuring solos. Structuring solos is a strange one because it is hard to try and articulate because it's just one of those ideas that you kind of, or one of those concepts that's quite inbuilt, I guess. Like probably the best example I can give you, and it'll give you a track example as well. I did a solo on a video for Paul Davids back in 2020. Paul Davids, for anyone living under a rock, absolutely huge guitar YouTuber, guitar educator and teacher, and very kindly asked me to contribute this solo to this video. If I'd known in hindsight it was going to get millions of views, I would have put more effort into it. I kind of dashed it off in about an hour or so because he asked me literally about 3 days after my little boy had been born. So I was quite literally up to my knees in the proverbial and just very busy. So I was like, yeah, cool, we'll do that. Kind of, yeah, boom, film it, send it off, boom, done. Kind of forget about it. And then the video went out and it's had millions of views. And in terms of like singular moments in my career, which people have latched onto or found me through, I still get tagged in covers of that every single day. People kind of covering that solo on Instagram. It's wild. But I think it's what people seem to connect with about it is it's however many bars long. It's a short little solo. It's like 40 seconds worth. But it kind of tells a story. And it's quite a, if I dare say so myself, quite a well-constructed kind of solo within quite a small kind of little framework. So I'll play that for anyone not aware of what I'm on about and then kind of dig into how I built that, I guess. Because it's, yeah. Interesting. Find it first. Every time I do this, I play it wildly differently to how I did on the video. It's literally about 40 seconds long and probably the most impactful 40 seconds of my life. And I guess, sorry. In terms of structuring that solo, I guess, like I said, I think that's kind of what people connected with it particularly because it kind of, it's a short little solo, but it kind of tells a story. It takes the listener on a little bit of a kind of journey. The crucial thing about that, which is quite different than most of the solos I do, especially within a band context, is that you have nothing to kind of use as a starting point, I guess. There's no vocal melody. I don't know whether that's a verse. Is that a chorus? Is it a guitar solo? Is it an outro? Is it an intro? All of these questions, which usually inform what you play in a guitar solo, I don't know anything there. So it's just kind of like this total blank canvas. So you think, well, just do the stuff which you know ordinarily works. And there's a couple of things there. Firstly, split it into segments. So it's kind of a section looped almost. In terms of the chord progression, and that's kind of what I did with the solo. So you've got the first half. That's the first half of the solo. Second half. Might sound familiar. Pretty much note for note what I started the solo with. So straight away the listener is kind of like, oh, I recognize that. That's a little recurring melody. That's a little motif. That's this kind of recurring idea which tells me where I am, gives me this little kind of like subconscious indicator as to kind of like, okay, we're at the halfway point. It's probably going to go up. It's going to build. If I go in the wrong direction and play high to low as opposed to low to high, which is what I do 99% of the time because it helps build the, again, context. Think of where guitar solos usually fall in songs. They're usually after a chorus and they're a bridge between one chorus and the next chorus. So what's your job there? If your solo is anticlimactic and takes people from a kind of like a high point down to a low point into a big kind of like anthemic chorus, you've not really set it up particularly well because you've gone in the wrong direction. If I play that solo again, but go the other way, so I'm going to go high to low, try not to play any wrong notes and see if it kind of feels the same, I guess. So instead of starting low, start high. Like I said, nothing wrong with that, arguably. There's no kind of obviously wrong notes, but it just felt like it was kind of falling off the edge of a cliff as opposed to climbing a cliff. And that's generally how I construct solos, is where am I going, where am I coming from, and how do I kind of tell a little bit of a story. Tell Me How It Feels as well, the last track that I played, the solo in that is a bit more of a challenging prospect because it's quite a long solo. That's super short, so it's very easy to kind of like think, well, this is the start, this is the middle, this is the end. Tell Me How It Feels is spread over a much longer kind of playing field. But again, start the solo. Halfway through the solo, I've got as far as the 8th fret on the guitar. It's that midpoint then where you go. All the way up to the bit that everyone wants to cover and go. Which is a cool lick. But it's only a cool lick because I've started the solo on the 4th fret. If you start the solo with that bit, at your climax, as it were, you've got nowhere to go. Like you said, you hit your ceiling. That's your headroom. That's as far as you can go. So if you start with your fast, flashy, your cool, your high bits, all of the kind of pyrotechnics, it feels like a bit of a kind of, you know.
And it almost seems vocal-like when you...
Oh, thank you. I mean, the vocal element is more, I would say, to do with kind of like how I approach the guitar, of this idea of, you know, you could try and do a semi-coherent solo for Tell Me How It Feels just on one string, you know. It's think of where you're playing and what notes you're kind of trying to express, and all that kind of stuff. It's vocal because I'm playing it as I would sing it. And I'm forcing myself into doing that because I'm playing on one string. The moment you start going, all your guitar-y, boxy, shapey stuff, you wouldn't sing like that. You wouldn't be leaping all around. It's going to sound mental. So, I'm a professional singer, as you can tell. So if you try and force yourself into that mindset of a singer, it makes you play like a singer. To start off with, it might be a bit strange, and what you'll end up doing inevitably is just going like playing in shapes, because you know you kind of need to figure out where the next note is that you're aiming for. But once you start freeing yourself up and you can kind of like moving things around like that, that's when it gets fluid. That's when it gets expressive sounding, I guess, ultimately. I can't even remember what your question was at this point, to be honest. Trying not to peak too soon. Oh, right hand, yeah, cool. So the right hand gets a lot of kind of questions. So a couple of things I'm doing principally. I tap my pick in my index finger a lot. So that kind of punk rock phase I was talking about earlier, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, I went through a phase of pretty much exclusively playing guitar with my index finger, but not like Jeff Beck, where you kind of pluck in strings. You're kind of like, literally, you know, kind of like. And all that served to do was just trash that nail, so it snaps like a wet Kit Kat at the first sign of trouble now. So I thought, well, if that nail is useless, that finger can at least be of some use. That can hold the plectrum, and that frees up my thumb, middle finger, ring finger, and to a lesser extent my little finger, to kind of have this sort of like claw kind of thing. A lot of double stop stuff where you're using. All thumb, middle finger, and third finger for the most part. Then, when it needs to, the pick can kind of leap out. It's the only vaguely dexterous thing I can do in the world. Pick can kind of flip into action and give you a bit more kind of aggression. That kind of back and forth kind of thing. Cool thing about that is that, like, I get asked a lot, like, why don't you just get rid of the plectrum when you play like Martin Knopfler or Jeff Beck or insert guitar players that don't particularly use plectrums? I don't know, 50-50, I guess, of the stuff that I do is with my fingers versus with a pick. There's stuff that you can do with your fingers, which you just cannot do with a pick. If you try and play with like the paddy, kind of like fleshy part of your fingers, you get this like soft. Like this delicate kind of. Try and do that with a pick. It's brighter, it's more aggressive, it's a little bit sharper, which is cool, and that might be exactly what you want. So you can kind of mix it up and go. Just to be able to have the two, to be able to kind of go back and forth between them, it's like textural and tonal and dynamic variation that you just wouldn't have if you were using either exclusively a plectrum or exclusively your fingers. Cool thing about your fingers as well, you've got your nail, and your nail kind of does a sort of passable impression of a bit of plastic, really. If you can kind of like play that with a pick. Pick is sharper, it's louder, but it's still, your nail gives you that kind of sharpness, I guess, for want of a better phrase. So you've kind of got a bit of a plectrum sound in your hand anyway, but then you've got all these little kind of like soft, delicate, kind of nuanced kind of dynamics that you just haven't got with a pick. So having the two, kind of being able to go back and forth is quite important in my playing, I guess. So I think that kind of answered. Yeah, no worries, man. Cool, let's have one more question and I'll do another track.
So you're playing the Helix there. What's your basic signal chain instrument?
Thank God you asked that. The Yamaha representatives were looking increasingly annoyed.
I don't work for Yamaha.
If you see a red dot appear on me every now and then, you know why. Yes, using the Helix into the power cab. Basic kind of signal chain. My ethos with the Helix is try and set it up as I set my normal rig up. So have a kind of relatively straight head clean tone with a bit of reverb.
What's the amp you're using?
Amp I'm using is it's like the Mesa Boogie Tally Texas Channel 1. There's a couple of Fender amps in there. Traditionally, I use more kind of Fendery voiced amps. For whatever reason, that felt more true to life of a real Fender than it did the Fender ones in there, just a bit kind of fatter and a bit warmer. I'm not using an IR in the Helix. I'm using the speaker emulations in the power cab, and then it's just stacking different drives and different delays as I kind of do on my pedal board. Cool thing about the Helix is that just depending on the scenario, it's just like infinitely more practical than carting a pedal board around or trying to find an amp. Good example being on the weekend, I was out in Cairo, and you just stick your preset on your laptop, fly out, ask for a power cab, ask for a Helix. Everywhere in the world has a power cab and a Helix. Bring it along, install your preset, and away you go. It kind of sounds as you do at home, as opposed to flying with a pedal board, which British Airways just arbitrarily send to Amsterdam, or asking for a deluxe reverb and being given a Mesa Boogie, what's the metal one? I've gone blank. Rectifier, yeah, triple rack or something. So it's just a nice practicality about a Helix, which you don't get with, kind of real gear. But then basically stacking different overdrives. So we've got clean tone. There's one called front end kick, which is just like a little bit of a kind of boost at the start of the signal chain. So it takes it from this to this. Let's face, fairly self-explanatory. That stacked with an overdrive pedal would be like the Tell Me How It Feels solo, so. Something like that. This particular preset I'm using, which I quite like, is labelled The Chain on there because it was the one I made for the cover of The Chain I did out in Germany with Martin Miller's session band. So you've got one foot switch here labelled Fleetwood, and then the next one labelled Mac. So Fleetwood, wherever it is, sounds like this. A little bit louder. Bit of gain. Mac, I think, is a bit more aggressive. Yeah. This one called Louder, which you can probably guess what that does. Solar boost, clean solar boost. We've got a univibe, which is a bit bizarre because I very rarely use a univibe, but it's nice if you want to play that chord. Sorry, it's a copyright strike going. Harmonic tremolo, which I love and use all of the time. It's like a less drastic version of a univibe. Tape delay. That's cool. That's my main delay for like the solo. So if we stick a couple of different overdrives on, like the Holding My Breath solo. isolation like that, that almost sounds a bit much. What I've learned with delay over the years, just from listening back to like soundboard recordings from our gigs or videos from out front, with delay and with modulation, you can be a bit kind of, it's almost like stage makeup, like plaster it on, because it doesn't necessarily sound as dramatic out front as it does on stage to you. So delay, the lesson I've learned is that you can kind of, generally speaking, have a little bit more than you kind of expecting. This one labelled reverse delay, I don't think I've ever tried this. I have no idea what it does. Okay, reverse delay, funnily enough. Just like a delay that creeps up on you. And then ambient verb, which I'm assuming is a big old, yeah, kind of like a cave. So for anyone familiar with Cardinal Black, there's a track called Jump In that we play, which kind of has this sort of like big kind of like... The thing about that is if you play softly, the first thing everyone does with a massive reverb is stick on like a delay or stick on like an overdrive and go like... At which point it's a bit mental. If you play dynamically with that and just play softly... anywhere near as drastic. It's a little bit more kind of nuance. Allows you to do all these big kind of Gilmore kind of, you know, whale noises. And that's pretty much it. Like every preset I ever make, even though I try and do kind of like mental stuff, I still keep coming back to essentially try to recreate my pedal board, which probably says something about me really being a bit of a dinosaur. Digital stuff for me at the moment still exists in this slightly strange paradox of like, think of the processing power in something like a Helix. You could probably, I don't know, control an Air Force with somewhere, I imagine, with a Helix and all of the DSP in it. And I'm using it to try and make it sound like technology from the 1950s. It seems a bit bizarre. It's kind of like, think how antiquated vacuum tubes are by any other, you know, your car radio probably would have used valves in years gone by. They don't anymore. The guitar industry pretty much is exclusively the only industry using these strange bits of outdated technology. And at the moment, we have all this incredible kind of processing power, and we're still trying to make it sound like a Gibson Skylark from 1952 or whatever. It doesn't really make a great deal of sense. So I think when it comes to stuff like this, I think there's probably better uses of it than me trying to make it sound like my Super Reverb. But I've yet to find one, so I'll just keep making it sound like an old bit of gear. That makes sense? Cool. Like I said, like for anyone who's seen us on the recent tour, I've gone mental and had loads of amps on stage. Gone full Bonamassa, Tonehenge, just because it's great fun and it's the biggest tour we've done in the UK where I have access to all of this stuff, and it's fun just to, you know, kind of make other people carry all these heavy bits of gear around for you. So and then stack them up on stage behind you. What I have noticed, which is particularly good fun, is when you've got a little bit of extra stage volume, and not even volume per se, because I don't like being ludicrously loud on stage. I find it a bit disorientating. Like, I did so many years as like a wedding musician, in essence, where you were lucky if you had a PA system, never mind a bloody monitor. As long as I can hear myself, I know I'm in tune, and as long as I can hear the drums, I know I'm in time. I don't want anything else. I don't want the lead vocal in my monitor, because I don't know what he's doing most of the time, forgetting words for one. All I ever have in my own monitor is my vocal, because I'm not a particularly confident singer, but I do a lot of backing vocals, so I have my own vocal belting loud, so I'm making sure I'm not sounding like a goose farting in the fog. And that's about it, really. I wrote the songs. I know where we are in the song. I don't need to hear what Tom's doing, heaven forbid. So as long as I can just hear myself, my guitar, and the drums, that's cool. I know I'm in tune and I'm in time. So it's not a volume thing particularly. It's kind of like a size of the guitar. It just sounds massive on stage, and you can kind of lead back into notes and they start feeding back. It's just a very nice position to be in. But then next week we're off to Europe, where we get shouted at by Austrians if we weigh too much. So back to the deluxe reverb next week. So Cool. One more question, and I'll do another song. It's not boring you all to tears.
What vibe do you use in your pedal board?
What vibe did you say? I don't really use. This is what threw me then. Having a Univibe on there. The Univibe's a bit of an unusual one. I very rarely use it. The kind of quote unquote vibe I use is the harmonic tremolo, which is this. That kind of like. There's an amp upstairs for anyone interested. If you get a chance to pop back in, Fender have just reissued a 1962 Super, like a brown face thing. That has harmonic tremolo, which is what this is. Harmonic tremolo is kind of like optical tremolo or like bias tremolo, where it's kind of like an amplitude tremolo, but it has this kind of like modulation to it as well. It's almost like a bit phasey. It's kind of like a subtle sort of like weird modulation about it. It's lovely. I love it. That's my main kind of like vibe that I use, and the one I use on my pedal board is in the Line 6 HX Stomp, which is the truncated version of the Helix. So I've tried a couple of different ones, and I've no doubt there are pedals which probably do it very well. I've not really found one that didn't particularly stand up to the Helix. What I did do a while ago, which made me laugh, was so it's replicating an effect that you would have had in old Fender amps from a kind of certain period, and the biggest of those amps from that time was called the Concert, which was released in '59, I think maybe, and it came with this special type of tremolo. So I was like, oh, get me one of those then. Started kind of trawling through Reverb and eBay, found one for sale in London, and I had this great idea of like, well, I'll get one amp, which will have the harmonic tremolo, and then my Super Reverb, my other amp, which won't have the harmonic tremolo, and I'll have this kind of like faux wet dry thing going on stage where the one is tremolo in and the other's not tremolo in, and it'll sound beautiful, it'll sound great. And then send it out front and the audience will love it. And then Brendan, our front of house engineer, who is in charge of making us sound good out front, the first time I turned it on, came out, he was like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, oh, why? He was like, well, he said, I've got so used to, over the last year or so, panning your amps out front, because he said it just gives it a width and it makes a little bit of space for the vocals down the middle. It just makes everything sit in the mix that little bit nicer. So he said, now what I'm doing is panning your amps. Your one amp is going wop, 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 and the other amp's not doing anything. So you have one half of the audience wondering why the other half of the audience are being sick all over the floor. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe not then. So essentially, I bought a very expensive brown amplifier just for it to match my other brown amplifier, because I can't use the tremolo on it now. So cheers, Brendan. But yeah, not really a Univibe guy particularly. Univibe is one of those effects that sounds awesome, but whenever I turn it on, I'm like, I just want to play Machine Gun. I just sound like Hendrix. It's so kind of like dated to that particular moment in time. You can't not play the tracks, you know, or you stick it on and you do Bridge of Sighs, you go. Or what is it? It's that sound, you know, so it's hard to kind of step out of that. But harmonic trem, for anyone familiar with some of the Cardinal Black tracks, it's a track called Warm Love. That's the start of that. Gives it like a movement and a kind of always reminds me of like, it sounds like the guitar is breathing. It's just quite nice. So that's the vibe, and that is also on the next track I'm going to play. So I'll stop wittering on. This is fun. This is a Cardinal Black track called Your Spark, which I asked for a backing track for the guy from the guy who mixed our record. Basically, just stripped the guitars out of it and sent me a backing track. Which is all well and good until you realise that the first minute of the track is just guitar and vocal, so I now have no guide as to when the track starts or when Tom is about to sing. So this is always interesting.
And you've got no reasons, I've got no way of ever giving you enough, no. There's nothing I'm stealing there, it keeps me awake, but I gravitate towards your love. And if I could,
It's a funny story with that track when we were recording it. I had a bit of a vision for like Gary Clark Jr. type track in mind. And we were recording it, and I knew it was going to be kind of like big and fuzzy and kind of fairly epic. And we get to the chorus part, and I'm working through it with Cyril, our producer in Switzerland, and I had this idea where it was just like, it just needs to be super simple, it needs to be power chords. So like big fuzz tone, and just... almost like a Black Sabbath guitar part. Pardon me, Black Sabbath guitar part underneath this kind of like bluesy, kind of like epic-y Gary Clark Jr. track. And Cyril, our producer, was like, oh, it's too fuzzy, it's too muddy, it's a bit kind of convoluted, it's not particularly marrying up well with the keys, it's kind of getting in its way. What else can you do? Can you play something else? I was like, okay, cool, why don't I try and kind of like play a little bit of vocal melody where I follow it round? So I go... Cool, that kind of sounds a bit busy though, a bit convoluted, a bit kind of overcomplicated. So we went through all these kind of different versions of it, eventually settling on the one which undoubtedly worked best and sounded best for the track, which was this. I was like, yeah, cool, that sounds great, but now I'm going to have to stand up in a guitar clinic one day and play a chorus consisting of just single notes. I'm looking like my first day playing guitar. But I guess there's a lesson in there. I don't know what that lesson is, but there's a lesson in there. Swiss people are usually right, I guess. Cool, questions?
Got some online questions.
Online questions, wow. Cool. When does the signature guitar come in? Remember that red dot I mentioned earlier? I don't know. I'm very much looking forward to going to NAMM in California in January. So, yeah, don't know really. How do you balance playing for pleasure and playing for pain? No, playing for profession. Honestly, I don't, and that's a bit crap, and it's a bit sad, I guess, if I think about it, that, like, if I have a guitar in my hand, it's usually in a professional capacity, and it is one thing I massively miss about playing guitar just for fun of it, playing guitar when it was essentially a hobby, and it was something I did purely for fun. The moment you cross over that threshold into, this is now the thing which is responsible for making sure that my child has clothes on his back and that I have enough food to eat, it does fundamentally change your relationship with the instrument a little bit, because there's all of this added baggage and added kind of association with it. And I do just miss picking a guitar up for fun and just noodling and kind of falling in love with it and just finding my way around it. The only time I ever come close to that, really, is when I'm writing. And I'm terrible for, like, we've just started writing a third record now, which will probably come out in about 2029. That's pretty much the only occasion where I actually just pick up a guitar for the fun of it and just play around, because you kind of have to. So even if it isn't necessarily for the fun of it when you initially pick it up, it soon turns into a bit of an exploration of kind of like, well, what chords sound nice together? What chord progressions have I not used before? Let's try and find some pretty progressions and things which sound pretty and nice. And that's about as close as it comes anymore, because it's just so few and far between the chances where you get to actually pick it up and just noodle for the fun of it and enjoy it and learn more about the instrument. Because if my time is limited, and if I'm, picking a guitar up, odds on it's because I'm doing a masterclass, or I'm doing a clinic, or I'm doing a video, or a gig, or a lesson, whatever it is. It's just hard to find the time to do it. So, hopefully at some point I will get to play guitar just for the fun of it again. And then one more. Where have you had a chance to try the new Helix Stadium? Will you be using it? I have had a chance to try it. Sounds awesome, and it's very intuitive as well. You can kind of touch the screen and move things around. I believe they call it a touch screen. I'm slightly out of date with the technology. I have a Nokia phone, so no, it's awesome. I didn't try it in the best of circumstances. I tried it at Guitar Summit, a big kind of guitar summit, I suppose, in Germany a couple of weeks ago, through some studio monitors. So not the best scenario, but sounded great. Cool. Any more questions? And then we'll start thinking. Yes?
Yeah, no disrespect to at Yamaha. I've got a Rev Star from 1999, love it. But a couple of weeks ago in Cardiff, you got a really, really good tone from the Jazzmaster. So what made you choose which guitar to play and which not?
Red dot, red dot. Yeah. So the question was, what makes me choose certain guitars and when? I played the Jazzmaster in Cardiff the other week that sounded good. The short answer to that is like any brand association aside. Honestly, I think I may be speaking out of turn here. I think one of the reasons that kind of like my association with Yamaha seems to have kind of connected with people is I'm fairly pragmatic when it comes to instrument choices. It's not like I've tattooed a Yamaha logo on my forehead and exclusively play Yamahas. And if I want to sound a bit like a Strat, I'll go and grab a Pacifica. And if I want to sound a bit less like a Les Paul, I'll go and grab an SG-1000. It's because I play the Rev Star because I love it and I use it when I want to sound like I have a Yamaha Rev Star. If I want to play Jazzmaster, I want to sound like I'm playing a Jazzmaster, I'll go and grab a Jazzmaster. Did it, in what way would you say? Oh, okay. Jazzmaster is a funny one. So I avoided Jazzmasters like the plague for a long time. Not because of the name, so much as the association of like musicians who used it, and that just being a little bit out of my wheelhouse and thinking, I'm going to pick it up inevitably, and I'll be the first ever guy to pick up a Jazzmaster and do this. Start playing blues on a Jazzmaster, and everyone will be like, "What are you doing? You're a fraud. That's not the music to play on that guitar." So I shied away from them for a long time, and then, as usually happens, the first one I managed to play was like a 1962 Jazzmaster, or whatever. At which point you're instantly spoiled, and every Jazzmaster ever is just sort of somewhat pales into insignificance. A big part of the Jazzmaster sound, for better or for worse, is the bridge. Like this Jazzmaster. The new Vintera ones upstairs, which was really cool. Played it straight away. I was like, that bridge just makes it feel a bit like a toy guitar. For me, it's kind of like this a weird thing. I'm not knocking your stock. I've got enough red dots on me as it is. It's a great guitar. You just need to change the bridge once you bought it. No, Jazzmaster bridges can be a bit of a kind of love-hate relationship. Some people love them because it is, in essence, it's a fundamental part of the Jazzmaster sound, for better or for worse. I didn't particularly like that sound. I went through a couple of different bridges, and I ended up with a Mastery bridge, which essentially makes it a bit more akin to like a normal bridge, I guess. A bit more sustain, a bit more kind of, a bit less kind of like plunky, for want of a better phrase. You know, they feel a bit kind of like strange when you play them relative to other guitars. So I think that probably has a big part in it. And then the fact that, try as I might, I kind of make every guitar sound the same. But because I just have my fingers, unfortunately, try as I might. But like I said, I'm just fairly pragmatic when it comes to different guitars and trying to use guitars which best serve the sound of the song that you're playing in, or what you're trying to convey on the instrument, you know. Don't be trying to get Strat sounds out of a Rev Star. Don't be trying to get Jazzmaster sounds out of a Les Paul. You know, it's not going to happen. You can try and approximate it best you can, but it's still going to be a kind of a pale imitation of the real thing, I guess. So, the other short answer is I just like dicking about with loads of guitars. It's quite fun. A bit of a revolving door of guitars on tour usually, and kind of like just, you know, there's usually one new shiny toy which I'll be attracted to for a tour. The most recent one being a Murphy Lab SG 64 reissue, which I bought about a week before we went to the US. The reason being, having done a bit of stuff in the US before, it now makes total sense. Whenever I upload any videos using like P90s or single coils or anything like that, always inundated with comments going like, "How do you live with the noise?" I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, even kind of like, you get that, stick a couple of overdrive pedals on. That's your bass noise little thing. Stick a fuzz on. It's there, but relative to the output of the guitar then, I can live with that. And then having got to the US last summer, now makes total sense. I don't know what they're using for their electricity in America, but for the... Apologies anyone watching this live stream in the US. Considering most of the buildings are brand new as well, the power must be absolutely atrocious. Because we did a gig in... where was it? Minneapolis, which is now affectionately referred to within the band as the Minneapolis Meltdown. Referred to my response to that gig. We were walking for a pint after the gig, and Sam, our bass player, came over and went, "There's a bit of the Phil Spector about you, isn't there?" I'm like, "I'm not sure that's a compliment, really. If it helps, I'm not going to shoot you." But like the reason I had a meltdown in Minneapolis, one of the myriad reasons I had a meltdown in Minneapolis was that it was probably about 50% guitar sound, 50% hum. Genuinely, it was like horrific. So the reason I bought an SG, having experienced that a little bit in the summer, in the US last summer, I was like, well, they're called humbuckers for a reason. I'll take a humbucker guitar. So if there's any venues which are like really bad, I'll just gravitate towards using the SGs for the night to get through it. You know it's bad when your humbuckers are not bucking the hum anymore. Like, even the SG was just crazy loud. So, of course, at that point, RevStar and Jazzmaster are like tantamount to unusable. And there was a couple of venues like that in the US. So it kind of makes sense then, all the questions I get online saying, how do you deal with the noise? Turns out I don't. I have a meltdown and start threatening to kill members of the band. So, but the SG, there's a very long way of saying funny story with the SG. Pale and Blue, I've just loved Pale and Blue guitars. Bought it on a bit of a whim of a guy in Wrexham. And I've, like, as far as I can remember, I've never really damaged any guitars. The only guitar I've ever really badly damaged was an Epiphone Les Paul, and I was late. I was taking it to school. I was like late or something. So I was running down my hill, and the bottom of the gig bag gave out, and the guitar just bounced down the hill. Thankfully, like back down. So the back of the guitar was just like road rash, just horrendously. And it ripped one tuning peg off, I remember as well. But thankfully, it wasn't top down. It's all I've ever done to a guitar, and that was just total accident. I've never damaged anything particularly badly through just being an idiot until I bought this SG. My guitar rack, we were playing a festival down in Plymouth or something, and my guitar rack with ordinarily would have been this and my Jazzmaster in it is outside the van, and I've got a Pelly case out which holds all of my cables, pedal boards, strings, everything else. Got my Pelly case out, and for some reason these two guitars were just resting on the seats in the van out of the way, and the Pelly case rolls out of the van onto the SG and takes just like a horrendous amount of paint off the side of it. And like, it's Murphy Lab anyway, so it's likely relict, but that doesn't extend quite as far as like a 6-inch gouge in the side of the guitar and exposing what then looked like plywood underneath as well. So yeah, I was just like, just at a total loss of words. Adam, our drummer, saw it happen, was nearly sick. Adam's just there going, oh God. Oh, God. I was like, you're not helping. So we had that was the Plymouth palaver. But I had it sprayed since, and it's still visible, but it's slightly less nauseating than it was. So short way of saying, I just like buying new guitars, experimenting for a bit. And the annoying thing is with the SG, I genuinely bought that. It was one of the few times in my life I've ever bought a guitar where I was like, I might flog that once the tour's done. If I don't immediately connect with it, I might just get rid of it. And now I can't because I've wrecked it. So, cool. Any more questions?
Just very briefly. So I mentioned the Jazzmaster. Sorry, Yamaha. You had a 40th anniversary Squire
Yes.
Jazzmaster.
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I've still got it. It's on the wall in my house. A question for the benefit of the live stream was, I had a 40th anniversary Squire Jazzmaster. Honestly, that was one of the guitars, aside from that 62 Jazzmaster I played at ATB, that was one of the Jazzmasters which like ignited my love of Jazzmasters. And again, it's just testament to the fact that a good guitar is a good guitar. It doesn't matter what it says on the headstock, what it's made of, who made it, where it was made, etc., etc. For whatever reason, that one rolled out of the factory and just, you pick it up and it just sings. So it's a very cool guitar, and like the amount of times I would use that and be inundated with questions as to like, you've messed about with that, what have you done on it? You've changed the pickups, you've changed the bridge, you've changed the electronics, you've changed the tuners, you've changed the nut, you've changed the body, you've changed the neck, you've done something. I'm like, no, entirely stock. It's just one of those ones that was great. Oh, amazing. They're great. They're really good. Squire makes some great stuff at the moment, I imagine. Much to Fender's annoyance, I would imagine. But yeah, very cool guitar. Still got the Panucci. I'm terrible at selling guitars. Like I said, luckily I have a storage unit, which has an incredible collection of guitars in it. I'm terrible at selling things just because the moment I go to do it, it occurs to me, you might need that one day. You might need that guitar with a sharp, like a Floyd Rose on it. You might want to join a Van Halen tribute band. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep that. Yeah, I'm absolutely diabolical. Yeah, I imagine you're responsible for some arguments at home, I would imagine. Cool. Should we do 2 more questions and I'll play a song and let you all go home I'm also going for a curry, so I've got vested interest in this. Time is money, time is money. Question?
Any advice for someone who wants to start a band?
Don't. Honestly, that's a question I get asked a lot. So, for the benefit of the live stream, any advice for someone who wants to start a band? I don't know. I mean, like, I'm the ripe old age of 34 now. I know I don't look it. I'll be able to grow some facial hair one day and look my age. Look like a 12-year-old with a hard paper round. Like, even at the ripe old age of 34, I feel like the industry has changed so much in the past couple of years that I'm in no fit position to be doling out advice because I don't really understand how it works myself anymore. It's, social media, for all of its detractors, is probably the reason that most of you are in this room to see me, is you've seen me on Instagram. Turns out I'm from 5 minutes up the road, but the fact that I go to Cairo a couple of days ago and there's like 300 people waiting to see me and have photos and have my signature and all this mad stuff is testament to the power of social media. So I don't think there's any getting around the fact that social media is playing like an increasingly big part in bands and in making a living as a musician in the 21st century. But at the same time, that's no excuse or that doesn't negate the need to A, be able to play your instrument, B, learn how to entertain a crowd. Like, stagecraft is one of those things that you can't learn on Instagram. You can't learn in your bedroom. You can't learn playing as a band of one. See all of these like incredible virtuosic guitar players playing in their bedroom, and you're like, that's cool, but like, there's absolutely nothing that replaces getting on stage in front of people and learning how to entertain those people in that room. And that's not always technical proficiency. It's stagecraft. It's having personality. It's knowing how to talk to a crowd and being able to kind of just hold their attention. So, join a band, start a band. Funnily enough, is a very good piece of advice for someone looking to start a band or join a band. Just throw yourself into it headlong. Like, finding people with the same drive, energy, and determination as you is hard, because music increasingly, whether it's going back to like a school level, its importance in people's lives or importance as something which they consider as like a viable way of making a living just seems to be decreasing. So people often treat it as a bit of a I just do this because it means I get cheap beer and I can go get pissed on a Friday night and play in a pub, Like, for me, unsurprisingly, that was never what it was about. From the moment I started playing guitar, I wanted to go and play in front of a crowd. And from the moment I played in the philanthropic in Cwmcarn to 4 people, I wanted to then go on to Wembley, which is why I bought a wireless system, very optimistically. Which, as you can imagine, came in incredibly useful in the Fox and Hounds when you're essentially stood on top of your amp anyway. I should have bought a patch cable. Just get out there, gig the arse out of it, do it as often, as frequently as you can. And, people are very quick to kind of, denigrate, like, wedding bands and function bands and stuff like that. Even that, having done that for such a long time with essentially Cardinal Black, with the same band, that is now doing original music and doing all these kind of tours and stuff, that's such a valuable experience. So much of my musical kind of like education and upbringing and like maturing as a musician came from playing weddings, and you get paid decent money for it. Bridesmaids, there's buffets, there's all of that good stuff. And it's invaluable. There's absolutely no replacing that. So learn how to feed the beast, do the social media thing, understand how it works, and try and kind of build a following and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, just get out there and do it, and you will get better at it. You get better at it. You get better at it until something hopefully happens. The only other bit of advice I ever give to anyone is make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Because if you're doing it for fame or fortune, you're in the wrong game. Definitely in the wrong game. Do it because you feel like you have this compulsion to do it, and it's the only thing you can do, and it's the only thing you want to do. The only person I've ever met in my life who is like been an incredible musician and apparently had the ability to turn that off and on. Some of you might have come across on like social media recently because he's been blowing up. A guy called Ben Travers. Anyone seen Ben? Like a kind of shred, like very technical, very fast player. And Ben, a couple of years ago, through a friend of a friend, got in touch and said, do you do guitar lessons? I was like, yeah, cool. Here's my address. Come on up. Ben came up, just asked me questions without a guitar in his lap for about the first 30 minutes of the lesson. He was like a bit of a fan of mine. Asked me questions, and then kind of like we just got around to guitar playing. And he name dropped something. He was like, yeah, I did an album a couple of years ago and Paul Gilbert played on it. I'm like, sorry, what? He was like, yeah, I did that. And then kind of like, who else was on it? Like Hank Marvin. And he started like name dropping all these people. I'm like, what do you do? And he was like, well, I'm in the military now. I'm like, yeah, but like play guitar for me. Pick up a guitar. Like one of the most terrifyingly good guitar players I've ever seen in my life. Started playing like Django Reinhardt, like kind of gypsy jazz stuff. Then straight into like Zakk Wylde at like peak shred. Just an incredibly versatile guitar player. Just blew my mind. But what blew my mind out of all of that was the reason he wanted a lesson with me was not as a guitar lesson. Clearly there wasn't anything as long as I had a hole in my arse. I was going to teach him how to play on the guitar because he could have played circles around me for a month of Sundays. He essentially wanted a pep talk as to like, should I get back into music? And I was like, absolutely. If you can play like you, I would have never left it in the first place. But he'd gone down the kind of military route and gone a bit more kind of like real job. And was basically wanting a pep talk as to whether he should get back into music. I was like, you absolutely should, because you're one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in my life. That's the only person I've ever met with an ability to like turn it off and on, who's been that good at their instrument. If you're that good at it and you love it or it's your life, you'll find a way to make it work. What that way is can be anything. Can be a covers band, probably earning more money than most of the original musicians in the world. If you want to go down the original music route, find a way to make it work, start booking your own gigs. Like our tour that we've just done in the UK, we kind of, a bit of a kind of strange approach to that. Like the typical route of booking a gig is you have a booking agent and you'll have a promoter. Your booking agent literally books the gig, liaises with the venues. The promoter then promotes that show and makes sure people turn up, in theory. Obviously, everyone doing that all has their 10, their 5%, all of these hands in different pots, taking kind of ultimately out of the money that you earn. And we had a couple of years of doing that and just getting increasingly frustrated with pulling increasingly large amount of people, but the number at the end of the evening in terms of what we got paid, not particularly going up, commensurate with the amount of people that were coming through the door. So we thought, well, I'll tell you what, let's try and do it ourselves. Because everyone tells you that it's very hard to be a booking agent and that it's very hard to be a promoter. So we thought, all right, I'll find out then. So we just booked the tour ourselves. We self-promoted the tour ourselves. And without getting into the weeds of the finances, the last tour we did, which was pretty sizable in terms of like doing Shepherd's Bush Empire, doing Tramshed in Cardiff, was an expensive hobby. This tour we've just done is actually the semblance of like making a living from it. So just don't be afraid to, learn as much as you can about this industry and how it all works. A, you're less likely to be taken for a mug. And B, you'll actually have a chance of being able to actually bloody make some money out of it. Imagine that. So advice, learn as much about the industry as you can because you're less likely to be shafted. 2, do it for the right reasons, because if you're doing it because you're chasing fame or fortune, do another job. 3, just play as much as you can. Hone your stagecraft, hone your musical craft, whether it's in front of pissed up people at a hen party or whether it's at an originals gig, you'll learn something from that experience and it will make you a better musician for it. That was weirdly profound, wasn't it? One more question and I'm going to play one more song.
How did you decide what songs you were going to play on the recent tour?
Ooh.
Sorry, the reason I asked, I've seen it quite a few times with the band. Saw you in Manchester.
Yeah.
You dropped what I thought was a real fan's favourite. You dropped halfway from the set.
Yeah. So I tell you why I dropped halfway. Someone asked us about this the other day. We did a meet and greet in Brighton and they were like, why are you not playing halfway anymore? The reason we don't play halfway is that one member of the band can't play his part and sing the backing vocal part that he needs to sing, and you're looking at him. And try as I might, and believe me, I've tried. Whoever it was asked the question earlier about like when do you play guitar for pleasure versus profession. The only time I ever really sit down with a guitar and actually diligently practice these days is trying to play parts where I know I've got to sing something at the same time, and it's usually something where it's like a different rhythm. Because I'm terrible. If I play guitar and I try and talk to someone, I will talk at the same rhythm as my fingers moving. I can't like separate. It's like that kind of thing where you're trying to separate the two spheres of your brain. And the part in halfway is, let's have a look, where is it? And the backing vocal part then is like, halfway from this world of mine. And I just can't, as long as I got a hole in my ass, be able to do that. I
Changed as well with Sam and T not being there now.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen you so many times with
Yeah, yeah.
It was a little bit different.
Yeah, like inevitably when there's a bit of a lineup change within a band, that will affect how things sound, I guess, ultimately. But obviously when Tay was there, she was exclusively a backing singer. So any bits like that where I'm struggling, I'll just throw them over to her and go, you do that. And that kind of allowed me to take a bit of a back step. But when we don't have that, and it's left on Muggins here, I'm like, halfway. There's another track on the new album, which was released as a single, which would imply that that's one of the tracks you're going to play on tour, which we've not played on tour, which is called Need More Time. It's because the chorus part. Me trying to play that and sing, because if you need more time, it's like it's totally different rhythm. You end up just, I either can't play it or I can't sing it, at which point it sounds crap. So there's a couple of choices you make which are very practically orientated. It's just kind of like, well, I can't physically play and sing that, so we'd probably best drop that from the set list. Incidentally, Live at the Memo, halfway is on that. It sounds perfect on that. Don't know how that happened. That's one of the beauties of post-production. Funny little secret for Live at the Memo, if anyone who's ever listened to that. Was anyone at the Memo gig?
Yeah, we were there.
Did you notice anything weird in the first song?
The bass was booming. On the balcony, remember that?
Yeah. So, I mean, firstly, that venue's quite hard to do sound in anyway. Any venue with a balcony is quite hard to do sounding. Is you like, well, who do you cater for? Do you cater for the bulk of the audience that sat downstairs, or do you cater for the section of the crowd which are upstairs? You have to kind of find a bit of a kind of like compromise, I guess, where you're kind of catering for everyone and no one probably all at the same time. I'll tell you what was weird about the first song was Tom, if you remember from that gig, was really rough. He had laryngitis, and we were so far in on that gig in terms of like the amount spent on it. Basically, we had kind of like, it was being properly recorded, it was being properly filmed, it was like a big production. And when we've realised we'd got to the point of like no return in terms of like, we spent a lot of money on this, Tom is now ill, what are we going to do? Like, well, we'll just have to do it and fix it later. Brendan, our front of house, because Tom was so rough, Tom did one track at soundcheck. Ordinarily, we'll do like 3-4 tracks, make sure everything's perfect. Tom did one track at soundcheck. He was like, if you don't mind, boys, I'm just going to go and ram honey up my arse, whatever it takes at this point, to try and make my voice better. So he went and sat in the dressing room, and we stayed on stage, just instrumentally kind of soundchecking. Brendan, our front of house, then, after we finished soundchecking, basically had recorded soundcheck on the desk, and then played back our sound check through the desk, further tweaking it. So essentially, you have the band on stage without the band having to be there playing. You just mix it for the room, make it sound perfect. Brendan then, in his infinite wisdom, forgot to change the desk back from playback mode, where he was essentially listening to what he'd done, into record mode, which is fine, but in order for everything to be recorded, the amount of processing power that uses, you're essentially recording like 32 channels simultaneously. The amount of processing power that requires of your computer or of your desk or whatever happens to be recording it, the byproduct of that is latency, which I've never experienced. So latency, for anyone who's ever experienced that when you're recording, it's basically a delay between you playing, you hearing it back. So you might hit a note and you get that kind of like, it's impossible to try and play with. It's like a real live delay, which we get on stage, we launch it to Terra Firma. Tom, the moment, like I said, I don't have anything in my wedge apart from my vocal. Tom has a bit of keys and obviously his vocal. Tom launched it the first line of Terra Firma, turns and looks at me, more terrified than I've ever seen any man look in his life. Just this like look of like sheer panic. And I'm like, that's weird. I don't know what's wrong. And you're like, well, you're live, you're in the moment, it's a room full of people, you've got to just find a way, crack on, or whatever. I get to the chorus, go and sing my backing vocal, and my backing vocal bit is, I don't care if you want. I get up the mic, I go, don't care. And I'm like, what is that? That is mental. And I just turn, and luckily, one of the engineers on that gig, a guy called James, who is Steve Winwood's front of house and producer and engineer, lovely guy, clearly very talented, was assisting on that gig, and he stood by my guitar rack, and I just turn at him and just throw this like word soup at him in this panic, throw a million words at him, none of which made any sense, apart from I must have said latency, because I was like, it just reminds me of latency when you've not set the buffer high enough on your Mac or whatever, and you get this weird like live delay. And I saw the moment of like realization on his face of like he sets off running. He's a big bloke, round the back of the stage, down through all like the bowels of the building, up into the main auditorium, and it was about 3/4 of the way through the first song where he like leans over and slams a button on the desk, and everything like comes back to life. The terra firma in the memo was one of the worst experiences I've ever had on stage ever. It was horrific. And of course, at the same time, I'm like very conscious of like, we're recording a live album. And you listen back to it, it sounds like every member of the band is not only playing a different song, but they're all drunk. And I remember speaking to my wife about it as well, 'cause she was there. I was like asking her about it after the gig. I was like, what did that sound like? And she was like, fucking weird. And I was like, well, no wonder it sounded weird, because what you were hearing out front was us on stage making noise, because we're playing real live loud instruments, and then through the PA system what you're hearing is us being recorded on a delay of about a second. So, and it's a decently sized venue, but it's not massive. It's not so massive as to like be Wembley Stadium where there's like a delay between the stage and the back of the venue. You were hearing us live and us being recorded with a delay. She was like, yeah, this sounds a bit weird. And listen to it, Tom's timing is atrocious because he's like trying to sing with this delay. So he just sounds like he's drunk, sounds like he's slurring. So, long way of saying, Terra Firma live at the Memo is actually live in Luxembourg. We basically just needed like a solid version of Terra Firma somewhere to complete this live album. So we found one of us live in Luxembourg and used that instead. And then also halfway, I might have fixed some of my backing vocals on that. So and guitar parts maybe. So
Other than that, it was a great gig. You know.
cheers. Other than the fact it was terrible, it was a great gig.
We enjoyed it, and it was a memorial gig for your dad.
Yeah, it was. It was a strange old gig. I terrified everyone, I think, in silence when I got back up, and like it was referenced. It was a memorial gig for my old man who passed away a couple of months prior, and like just I kind of talked about it and push-pull during the thing. It's just such a surreal thing losing anyone you're that close to, like, and I think it's quite indicative of myself, not only myself but everyone in the band, that you kind of have an element of like black humor in all that. So I go back out expecting a bit of a laugh, and it just like killed the room. I go back out and I'm like, everyone having a good time? Way! And I was like, right, calm down, talk to my dead dad now. And there was just this like, and I heard one of my mates at the back go, ha! Like, he got it. So yeah, there we go. I'm sure my dad would have found that funny as well as the caveat there. But right, I'm gonna play one more song, and then all the people who are too afraid to ask me questions can come and corner me in a toilet. So let's have a look. Anything anyone wants me to play? One we know. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's do that. This is Warm Love, and this always makes me laugh because this is the guitarless version from the Memo. So, because it's a live record, you essentially have Tom shouting encouragement at me throughout the solo, which is quite funny when you do it in clip.
And the solid doors and dance on floor was painted walls that held no lights on. Welcome home, sweet solitude. Yeah. Gotta stay on your feet. You might be needed again in those early nights and those midnight flights. Just to be alone with you. There's not much change between comfort and control. Can anybody help me? Because there's nothing like this sound of silence. And I need your warm love. Oh, your warm love. I got to have your warm love. Deep down inside, I need your warm love that I can't hide. And you're moving on, yeah, moving on. And I knew a job you got, but you don't like that. they have your warm love. Yeah, and that's killing me deep down inside. Need your warm love that I cannot hide. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's killing me inside.
Thank you, A-Strings. Thank you, everyone else. See you soon.
How brilliant was that? We've got a guitar to give away. So, yeah. This lovely gold guitar you see to the left of me. Thanks to Yamaha again for putting on this evening, for arranging it, and thank you for Chris for coming to Forest to come and see us. It's been a really, really great night, but we got this guitar to give away. A lot of you have entered, and in true A-Strings fashion, we got a Pepperami box with a lot of entries here. So we'd like to ask Chris, can you pick up something from the Pepperami box? Pepperami, for our international viewers, is a spicy sausage snack. What have we got, Chris? Gwen. Oh, that seems like a bit of a fix. Gwen Rees-Thomas, who's, well, it's the mother of an employee, so I don't know. Should we have a show of hands? Who's for the? If you think Gwen should, no, there's no hands. I'm sorry, Matt. Dems breaks me. Let's go again. Let's go again, Chris. He's getting paid overtime. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And that's the end of the competition. Thank you very much. Charlotte Llewellyn. There we go. Have we got... I don't think it's you. I don't think it's you. You're a little bit too bold for Charlotte. I know Charlotte. She's not that bold. Sorry to all the follically challenged people. Charlotte Llewellyn, I don't know if you're in the room or not, but you've won this lovely guitar. Everybody's thrilled for you. But, yeah, let's give her a round of applause, please. Charlotte, thanks very much.
I'll be on reserve next week.
Thank you, Yamaha, for tonight. Thank you, Chris, for coming along. Wonderful evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming along as well. We're A-Strings. We're at a new location, and if you're online, astrings.co.uk. If you're here, you know where we are. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon for the next brilliant thing. Take care.